Dear you, I'm writing to you from a version of yourself who remembers the quiet shock of realizing you no longer recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. It wasn't just about physical appearance. It was the way your eyes looked tired in a way they didn't used to. The way your smile felt practiced instead of natural. The way your posture shifted as if carrying weight you couldn't name. You felt like a stranger to your own reflection, familiar yet distant, known yet lost. I remember how unsettling it was. You tried to trace back the moment when you changed, but there wasn't one moment. It happened slowly, piece by piece, through days that demanded too much and nights that offered too little. You adapted to things you never wanted to adapt to. You coped with things that should have never been yours to carry. You learned to keep going even when you felt disconnected from your own heart. And over time, those small changes accumulated quietly until one day, you realized the person you were becoming didn't match who you believed you were supposed to be. There were mornings when you didn't feel excited to start the day, even if nothing was wrong. There were moments when your laughter felt like an echo of an older version of you, something you remembered but couldn't fully embody. You felt disconnected from your passions, your desires, the small joys that once touched you easily. Life hadn't stopped, but your sense of self felt like it had paused, frozen somewhere between who you used to be and who you didn't know how to become. You didn't talk about these feelings. How could you? How do you explain to someone that you feel like you've drifted away from yourself? How do you tell them that the hardest part of your days is not the responsibilities, but the quiet realization that you can't feel your own identity the way you used to? So you kept it silent, hoping it would pass, hoping one morning you'd wake up and feel familiar again. But every day felt a little heavier. Every decision felt a little harder. Every smile felt a little less like yours. And the confusion grew because how do you search for yourself when you don't know where to look? I saw how scared you were, even when you hid it behind composure. I saw the way your heart longed for a sense of home inside your own skin. And none of that confusion made you broken. It made you someone who had outgrown old versions of yourself without yet meeting the new one. Your past self understands now that not recognizing yourself wasn't a sign that you were losing who you were. It was a sign that you were evolving in ways you didn't yet understand. The disconnection you felt wasn't emptiness, it was transition. Your old identity had finished its cycle, and your new identity hadn't fully taken shape. That gap between versions is confusing, emotional, and deeply uncomfortable, but it's also profoundly human. You weren't drifting, you were shedding. You were releasing beliefs that no longer aligned with your truth. You were letting go of roles that were too small for your spirit. You were stepping away from patterns that once protected you but now restricted you. Of course, it felt strange. Of course, it felt disorienting. Of course, it felt like losing yourself. Transformation rarely feels like becoming. It feels like unraveling first. Your past self wants you to understand something important. You did not choose to become disconnected. It happened because you spent years prioritizing survival over self-discovery, obligations over desires, duty over authenticity. When life requires too much endurance, There's no space left for identity to breathe. You didn't lose yourself. You paused yourself. And when you finally had the space to notice that pause, it scared you. But fear doesn't mean you're broken. Fear means you're on the edge of change. You looked at your reflection and saw someone you didn't fully know, but that unfamiliarity was a sign of growth, not loss. You were becoming more aware, more conscious, more intentional. Your soul was nudging you to reconnect, not with who you used to be, but with who you were meant to grow into. Think about it. You questioned things you once accepted. You examined habits you once followed, unconsciously. You noticed emotions you once ignored. You awakened to truths you once pushed aside. That's not disappearance. That's awakening. It's uncomfortable because old versions cling to comfort. But your deeper self, the one waiting beneath the surface, has been preparing to rise. You weren't lost. You were transitioning between chapters, and transitions always feel like identity, slipping through your fingers before it settles back into your palms. Now I'm speaking to the you reading this, the you who still sometimes feels unfamiliar in your own skin, who still wonders if you'll ever feel like yourself again, who still looks in the mirror trying to recognize the person behind your own eyes. I want you to breathe gently and let this truth settle softly into your chest. You are not lost. You are becoming. You are not drifting away from yourself. You are growing into a self you haven't met yet. This in-between is not a void. It's a birthplace, a sacred space where identity rearranges itself, where clarity forms quietly like dawn breaking on the horizon, where your future self begins to take shape behind the scenes of your heart. Don't rush this process. Don't shame yourself for feeling disconnected. Don't judge the confusion. Instead, listen. Feel. Allow. The parts of you that feel unfamiliar today will soon become the parts you cherish most. The strength you're forming now will anchor your future. The softness you're rediscovering will become your compass. The questions you're wrestling with will become the foundation of your next chapter. You don't need to go back to who you were. You don't need to recreate an old identity. You don't need to fear the unknown unfolding within you. A more aligned version of you is coming, one who feels clearer, more grounded, more honest, more whole. One who moves through the world with intention instead of autopilot. One who speaks with authenticity instead of obligation. One who feels at home inside themselves. Take a slow breath. Feel your chest rise with the truth that you are allowed to rediscover yourself. Feel your shoulders soften with the reassurance that you don't need to have everything figured out today. Feel your heart warm with the understanding that unfamiliarity is not a warning, it's an invitation. You will recognize yourself again, not as who you were, but as who you are meant to become. And that version of you is worth every moment of uncertainty. Sincerely, you.